On this week's episode of Beer in Hand Podcast, I'm talking to Andy Thomas. He's the owner and brewer at Starving Artist Brewing Company in Ludington, Michigan. We talk his brewery, his beers, his barrel share program. We touch a little bit on the closing of Floyd's Taproom. Sad face. Got some technical difficulties and some loud bangs. Enjoy. Welcome back to Beer in Hand Podcast. I'm happy to be joined today by Andy Thomas, the owner and brewer of Starving Artist Brewing in Ludington. I, without a doubt, can say one of my favorite beer makers in the state today. I mean, I absolutely everything you do, I truly enjoy. And I'm late to the game. I mean, I just jumped on the bandwagon probably early last year, but I'm really loving everything you do and everything I picked up. I've been to the brewery twice now, and I can't wait to get back. One, to pick up Superhero Lunchbox.
Yes.
So we're going to talk some beers today. We're going to talk plans going forward for your brewery. But what I always like to start with is kind of the origin story of what got you into brewing beer. I mean, reading your past, I know you were brewing in Ludington at Jamesport for about 10 years.
Actually, that's not true.
Okay.
That's not true. I'm sorry.
Correct me.
I did work at Jamesport, but for only 4 years.
Okay.
And I did everything there. I was on the line. I served. I bartended, pushed mops, whatever. But the one thing I did not do is brew at Jamesport.
Okay.
Which, but for 10 years, we did own an art gallery.
Okay. You did 01 in town there?
Yeah. Yep. Right after I left Jamesport.
And that's what I want to get to. I mean, are you the artist behind every one of your cans and bottles and everything there, or do you bring people in? I mean, your art on your cans and bottles is just second to none.
I wish I could take credit for that, but no. Some of them, yes, but we have got a really great group of artists that have worked together. One being Chris Van Wyk, a local artist, good friend. He designed our logo for us as we were getting started. He did a lot of our early stuff, Blood Forge, Hot Marley, Slims, the early cans. So Chris was kind of quintessential in the beginnings of the art of the first thing that people saw when we were entering the market.
Sure.
And thanks to him for kind of making us look bigger than we are. So that's kind of on him. But no, we got a couple other artists. We've got a woman that designs heavy metal logos and things. That she's done a couple things for us, which have been kick ass. And we've got another artist, Charles State, who does a lot of stuff. So we have a series of artists that work with us.
Okay.
Because they're all better than I am.
So then you're at Jamesport and you have the studio or the gallery, and what got you, or what flipped the switch for you to say, you know what, I'm going to do this pretty much in your backyard in the barn?
That was probably a series of many things that happened. So I fell in love with craft beer at Jamesport, like you said, and Tom Buchanan, who I call the beer father here, who's now with Ludington Bay here locally. We call him the beer father. It was all him who kind of got us into craft beer back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when craft beer was still kind of taboo, right? It was growing in popularity, but nothing like it is today. And so I pretty much give Jamesport all the credit for me falling in love with craft beer. I pretty much didn't even drink beer. Probably because I was not 21 yet. I was almost 21, but I did not drink beer then. So, but anyways, yeah, I completely fell in love with craft beer. Tom sat me down with a flight sampler when I turned 21 and said, "We're going to find a beer that you like." And to my surprise, he did, and it was their English Mild, just a really, really nice, super sessionable brown ale, and just crazy good. And so yeah, I just fell in love with craft beer there. And so, go ahead. Sorry.
No. And then so, I mean, when you decided that you were going to open one, did you know you were going to do it in your backyard?
No. We actually lived in a different house so I'll make it quick, I guess. Right.
No.
So, um, so we owned an art. My wife and I, my wife Michelle and I owned an art gallery. We bought an art gallery. So as soon as we left Jamesport, as soon as I left Jamesport, I took a job at a little art supply store and picture framing shop, and to kind of pursue more of my art, and dreams and whatever. And so after Michelle and I bought that business back in probably 2006, I think it was. We I had this idea, and this is right when nano brewing was becoming a really big thing, right out west. When you're hearing stories of guys opening up nano breweries in storage containers, and like, whatever, anything, their garages, unfortunately, Michigan's laws do not permit such things here, but I had this great idea for this little nano brewery that we were going to do, called Ghetto Brew.
Okay.
And at the time, I was at Jamesport, and some random dude at the bar, I was telling him about it. I had shirts made, and he's like, "That's a stupid name." I'm like, "What? No, that is not a stupid. This is awesome," because it was ghetto. It was like EAUX or whatever, like faux, faux ghetto. And like, no, he was so right. I'm so happy that didn't happen. But we moved into this house. The gallery, after 10 years of the art business, had become, I guess ran its course is the right way to say it. And my wife said, "Well, you've always wanted to open a brewery. Do you think you could open one in the barn?" And by that time we were in this house, I'm like, "Well, shit, maybe."
Yeah.
So we started a big checklist of things, and we got to name it, we've got to get all the paperwork done, we got to get all these things, that huge checklist. We got to finance it. There's all these things that we have to make reality before this actually. What's that?
Was that roughly about 2015?
This was probably the end of 2013 that we started kind of percolating the idea.
All right.
And the LLC for Starving Artists was established in 2014. And like every brewer in the state and or country, our timeline was unrealistic. So we opened in June of 2015.
Okay. Were you strictly thinking just distribution only?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. And so at the time we still owned the gallery. And we decided that distro only was a good way to do it. A lot of brewers warned us against it, because it's not an easy, the margins are slim. It's a pretty competitive market. And actually, it's surprising how much more competitive the market's become since we opened.
Sure.
So it's pretty incredible that in nearly 5 years here, that the market's completely changed. But yeah, we decided that it was it's surprisingly hard to get your address removed from Google. But we went to that level of, we don't want people to know we're here. We don't want to create a lot of traffic. We don't want, it's like, let's just get some beer out there and see what happens. And we designed this business to be able to survive on a very, very low budget, so that we could do the things we wanted to do. And to our surprise, it became incredibly useful as of late.
Okay. I read today when I was doing some research that the first time you did a bomber release, you didn't have your address. You're just kind of like, the people who want it will find us.
Yep.
Okay. What beer was that?
Yep. Yeah, we so we had the Growler Club. Yeah, anybody that found us or anybody that knew about us, we had a Growler Club that you could come and fill growlers.
Okay.
From the beginning, and that's grown a little bit over the years. But So when we came to our first bomber release, yeah, it was basically a Easter egg hunt. Like if you don't know where we're at, good luck. and so it wasn't until, man, it was probably 2 years ago that a good friend of ours who was helping me kind of move the business forward said, like, basically, if you ever want this business to grow, you got to tell people where you're at.
Okay.
I'm like, well, all right. God damn it.
I want to start talking about those beers, and you're drinking. I haven't started my drinking yet because I wanted to wait and show people this little 8-ounce bundle of joy that I'm holding, and I want you to talk a little bit about a 17% Imperial Stout called Big Trouble in a Little Can. This is my third can I've had from you, so I'm going to crack it. And
hell yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this beer.
So, I wish I could take full credit for this beer because it's delicious. My brother-in-law Lee has a beer. He's a home brewer extraordinaire. Has a beer called Yes Have Some. And I guess if you get the joke, good on you. I'm not going to tell anybody the joke, but if you get it, I mean, it's pop culture. It's awesome. But unfortunately, that name was taken, so we had to get creative. But this is based off of his recipe.
Okay.
He is my go-to your beer sucks or your beer is great guy. He's an engineer, and I don't think he could lie if he was paid to.
He doesn't hold back.
No, and that's what I love. I love that, that he'll go down the line and be like, yeah, that beer is terrible. Just never brew that again. I'm like, okay, great. So, anyways, this is an iteration of Yes Have Some, and so what it is that it's an imperial stout with maple syrup, chocolate, and coffee.
Okay.
And so we got the 17% with multiple steps, but majority of or a good part of the alcohol was adding equal parts maple syrup over a few days during active fermentation to not stress the yeast out, so that we could just kind of keep that rising, not get any fusels in there. I mean, it's boozy, right? Because it's 17%. You're gonna taste alcohol.
Yeah.
But I feel like for 17%, it's not real hot, so that made me pretty happy.
Yeah, and I told people, usually when you get a 17% beer, a lot of them are going to come in a big, bomber bottles. This is nice because at 17%, most people are going to be able to take that down by themselves. May get a little buzz, but it's definitely something people can handle. So because I'll never be a brewer, and I always like to kind of, pull the curtains back. Did you know, was 17% what you were going for? Did you have an idea when you were starting to brew this beer that this is your goal?
I was pretty disappointed. I was going for 18%. I got close. I was so close.
So what is the strongest ABV that you've brewed? Is this it?
That's it. Yep. Okay. That's it. On our system is a pretty I guess going back to ghetto brewing, our system's pretty ghetto, so getting high ABVs can be a little challenging. And so I was so happy that we hit 17. 18 was we're gonna make it. So 17 was like, dang it, but we got close. So good enough for me.
It's an amazing beer. I brought it down. I've had your beers in Florida, so that's the furthest they've traveled with me. And the Floridians that had this were just like, what the fuck? There's not many beers that they can find in Florida like this, so they were happy I brought it down. Unfortunately, I had to share 8 ounces with 3 people.
Oh, that sucks.
No, that's all right. It was worth it.
Everybody got to wet their lips a little bit.
Yeah. You're drinking a beer that you released just about 3 months ago, correct? Right around Valentine's Day?
Yep. So I'm trying to figure out where the camera is, but is that it?
Yeah. You're on it. There it
is. This is Lettre de Mort. and that is my really weak attempt to be fancy, or love letter. And this is a sour that we released on Valentine's Day that has raspberries, blackberries, mango, rhubarb, and Concord grapes.
Nice. So I was lucky enough when I was in, I think it was probably the weekend before Valentine's Day this year, you gave me a little 3-ounce pour of that, and it was outstanding. I really, really enjoyed that one also. I mean, obviously I've had probably 7 or 8 beers of yours now at the brewery, and none of them have disappointed. I've also found you at Burning Foot last year in Muskegon.
Yes.
That was a great time.
Yes.
I was using a lot of my little paper tickets at your booth.
With all the scary clowns.
Yes, exactly. You guys were full makeup that day. Full makeup.
Yeah, we get pretty sad that we're not going to be able to do that this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And they just announced today that summer's canceled.
Yeah.
So, they're falling by the wayside, but hopefully, it's all obviously for people's health, and maybe fall up in the UP and some smaller ones across the state will later on be able to be open.
I'm all for it. I'm a supporter of it. Let's write 2020 off as the year that we all got to get shit done. There's always 2021.
Let's touch on that just a little bit. I mean, I kind of know you do a lot of if people want to catch up a little bit, probably in the past 2 months, maybe at least once a week, if not twice a week, you've done some Facebook Live videos, just kind of talking about the status of the brewery, what's coming up, things that you can order online. What is, for a smaller-ish brewery, what is the pandemic and the kind of quarantine or shelter in place done? How has it affected you, I guess?
So it's done a couple things. So first of all, it's made us realize how awesome of a core that we have, and a group of hardcore supporters that honestly I don't think we'd ever be able to repay the debt. Everything that we've done, people have been so supportive. I mean, it's been a very humbling and enlightening time. I mean, we're very blessed to not be one of the businesses that are saying that this is affecting us negatively. Right. There's been more silver lining than there has been hardships, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I will say at the beginning, I mean, it was pretty terrifying, right? You're shut down. My wife is a cosmetologist and she's shut down, and so it's like, okay, well, we're both self-employed because we thought we were recession-proof. Hair and beer, right? Sure. Everybody wants both of those, no matter how hard things get. But when you're told that you have to close, that was a pretty interesting moment. And so I guess it's been pretty amazing to see all of our fans and new fans and community and people really just dive into all the ideas that I've been trying to be really creative with, rare t-shirts, or just basically like, okay, like, are we going to sit down and wait for this to end, or are we just going to try and make a go of this? And so we chose the path of make a go of it, and people really dove into that. And so I'm forever grateful. And I mean, literal lack of words on how I feel about how people have supported us in it.
Well, that's great to hear. Two things that I know just kind of from following you, and one that I got part of, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But the first thing is that I from the photos I'm seeing, you're being able to build out your beer garden a little bit.
Yep. So part of the silver lining is that, for anybody who knows Starving Artists, they know that it's basically it's a skeleton crew at its slimmest. And I personally do 80% of the work We have a couple volunteers that come in that are just awesome. That just want to be here, and they're super cool. It's just helping us can or helping us clean fermenters, or just people who love beer who are coming in. And then we have Danny, who everybody loves, and we love, and but that's so. So I guess one of probably the biggest silver lining in this is that we've had time to complete projects that I've only dreamed of completing. So that's because I'm a go guy, and so when I'm forced to stop, it's well, okay, what do we do? Like, okay, let's find something to do. Well, let's do the beer garden that we've always talked about.
Yeah.
Let's do so big silver lining is that when people get to come back to the brewery when it's open and full, you're gonna get to see the things that a lot of the things you're gonna see when you come in, like the beer garden, or as stupid as the swinging chain link doors. These are all things that have been going, circling in my head and percolating for a long time. So it's been a blessing that we've had time to stop and do those things, because otherwise we probably never would have.
No, just too busy. If you were to stay open the whole time.
Right. It would have. Those things never ever would have happened.
Always on the list, but never able to get to them.
Right.
Right. The other thing, which I was chomping at the bit when I saw you post about it or talk about it online, was your barrel share program. So I'll kind of gloss over it, but and if you want to just kind of quickly go through the beers, but just to let everybody know, you're doing 6 full barrels, barrel-aged beers, all of them a little bit different, some of them a lot of bit different. And what it was you buy a share of a particular one of your, you could choose the 6, one of the 6, and buy a share, which gets you, was it 10 bottles or 12 bottles?
A minimum of 10. Yep.
Minimum of 10 bottles of a particular beer. And just to let everybody know, I mean, I couldn't do the math on the top. I know I was discussing with friends. I mean, there's what, so that's 300 bottles, pretty much a barrel.
Right.
Roughly. So times 6. That barrel share program sold out in hours.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
I got what I did. I have a group of friends that love beer, as all the way down to Florida and as far north as Minnesota, bought into it, and we kind of pooled our money and bought a small share of each barrel, so we can so we won't get 10 of one, we'll get a couple of each one of them, which we're all looking forward to. But the idea of this is that you buy into this, and you pretty much are growing a little baby for us for the next 6 months, 6 to 9 months, or however, we're aiming for November. So if you want to maybe expand on that a little bit and just talk about the beers that you're doing in those.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the, okay, what do we do with Michelle being out of work and me being out of work, and no real guarantee of any income. There may be unemployment, there may be some grants, there may be lots of maybes, and we're scrappers, so it was okay. Maybes are great for maybes, but like, what do we do? So immediately I go to, okay, what can we do? So the first thing I went to was these, limited edition shirts. Buy these, that's fun and cool.
Yeah.
The next thing we came up with, which we actually got delivered today, was the mug club. We always swore that we were never going to have a mug club, because if you've ever been to our brewery, you can only have 2 pints and then you got to go.
Yeah.
We love you, but you can come back tomorrow. And so we were never going to do a mug club. And then it was, my buddy Skylar, who did the mugs, like, artists are suffering probably worse than most people, right? Because, the first thing to go on the list of things to do is art. When it comes to times like these. So I was so happy to be able to get some mugs going. And so anyways, like, all these ideas, and then it clicked, like, what about this barrel thing? And it kind of morphed into this barrel share program. So And honestly, when we came up with the idea, it was like, okay, well, this could work, and this is a lot of it, kind of thrown back on our shoulders. Is this is a lot of weight to carry, because we have a lot of your hard-earned dollars, especially during a pandemic.
Yeah.
So these beers better be goddamn good. All right, but
I'll interject. I'll interrupt. I'll interrupt. Yeah, you're right. So someone's buying into something, and I did have to kind of explain to somebody, like, well, how do I know what I'm getting? I'm like, just trust me. I've had his beers. They're going to be really fucking good.
and that's so I always tell people when they come into the brewery for the first time, and I hope that you heard this while you were here. I don't know if you did or not, but I have a saying when you come into the Starving Artist that I hope this is the worst beer you ever have from us. And so meaning that I hope the beer is good, and I know the beer is at least good. It might not be life-changing good, but I know that all of our beers are good, because I care that much about what I'm serving. I dump a lot of beer. If it doesn't pass my palate, it goes into the backyard. We call it deer beer, right? We're on a farm, so deer need beer too.
Sure.
So yeah, it is a little intimidating, but the idea is that we really, 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 really care about the quality of beer going out. So people investing in us and buying into these barrels, no matter what, you're going to get good beer. I smart enough to have fail-safe plans set in place to make sure this works. We've had plenty of time to plan. But anyways, yeah, we set a conservative number of bottles based on the gallons that go into a barrel, divided into the 12-ounce bottles. Excuse me, sorry. We set the minimum bottles to 10 bottles per share.
Yep.
And what that means is that's a conservative. That's if we have a lot of evaporation in the barrels, and or seeping back into the wood.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you, Andy? Entertained.
So our goal was that we under promise and over deliver, right? And so we came up with that 10 bottles was we feel pretty safe about that. So the goal is that when everybody gets their shares, they're going to get maybe 12, maybe 13, 14 bottles. So and drive the price down. So we based it kind of off of buying shares into future into future investments or future stocks or whatever they're called. But kind of basing it off of that.
I'm not a stock guy, but I totally get what you're saying.
Right, just trying to get creative. So anyway, so my wife and I we threw this around, and we're like, okay, well, there's some things we've wanted to do beer wise that this would be a good excuse to do it. And the thought was well, okay, this is pretty far out there, and I know other breweries have done similar things. So this isn't a completely original idea, but maybe some kind of a weird morph of it.
But you may be the first in Michigan, from what I mean, and I could be wrong, so someone correct me if you're watching this. But I think you're the first in Michigan to kind of do the whole, buying into a barrel months and months in advance.
Right, and I to my knowledge, we are, and a lot of places haven't really done it this way, because, like you said, I mean, by investing in this barrel, you're investing in Starving Artist, and setting that trust on us to know that you put your money in a good place. And so like I said, that's a huge weight. And so and Michelle and I were joking around like, well, okay, well, if we do this, it's a great way to generate some income during a time that we need it the most right now with this whole thing going on. And we said, well, okay, well, I mean, we have 6 months to sell all those shares. So who cares if we sell, right? So we're like, okay, no, this will work. We can sell these shares over 6 months.
You were making the beer no matter what. You just were hoping
right. It was going to happen no matter what. This was happening. If people kind of thought it was a cool idea, they could buy in and be one of the cool people.
Did you know in about 15 hours they were going to sell out?
Yeah, it was less than 6 hours.
Yeah.
It was, so we were kind of jaws on the floor the whole day, like, holy shit, what just happened?
When I found out, so there was one barrel left that didn't quite sell out, and it was the one that I was looking most forward to. So my feelings were hurt. So if you, we'll go over a couple of them, but talk about Lily.
All right. So Lily is extremely passionate, because it's named after my grandmother who passed, fairly recently. And so Lily is named after my grandmother, and so I wanted, in my head, I wanted to plan that beer to be the one, the one out of the 6 that was like, yeah, that's it.
It's definitely the most unique.
What's that?
What you put online, it's definitely to me, it's the most unique.
Right. It's the wild card, right? But in my head, I'm like, so this is an interesting kind of similarity between, brewing and the gallery and oil painting. I did a lot of oil painting, and as an artist, the ones that you really think are the ones that you spent all that time on, the ones that you're like, that's it, this is the one that people are going to just go nuts over, are the last ones to sell. And the ones that you almost threw in the garbage, the ones you're like, I don't know if I believe in that painting anymore, but we'll throw it on the wall. It's so hard to tell what people are into, and so in my head, Lily was the one that was going to sell out first, and it totally surprised me. It's probably because I'm really passionate about that one. But anyway, so Lily is a wheat wine.
Yum.
With mulberries. So for anybody not familiar with the wheat wine, it's probably it's a fairly new style as far as a lot of the beers that we're drinking. Because it falls into that category of it's not a wheat beer, the ABV is too high, and whatever. But wheat wines are one of my favorite beers out there, and not enough breweries do them. And then mulberries, same thing. We did a mulberry sour a couple years ago, and it's amazing to me how many people have never eaten a mulberry. I mean, that's probably one of the easiest fruits to find. They're everywhere.
They grow on your property and your neighbor's property, and you're out picking them like barrels full?
Yep.
Okay.
We will be harvesting them by hand, getting those things onto tarps, washing them, getting them all set. And so I don't know. Yeah, man. Lily was probably the I don't know. For anybody who has a share in it, that's the one that I'm rooting for.
No, that's the one I'm looking forward. So if I was going to buy a share by myself, like I said, I got a group together to buy a bunch of each. I was going to buy the share into Lily. That was my go-to. And everyone was talking about the Wisconsin Death Wish and the double CCR, and those all sound amazing. But that, like you said, wheat wines to me. Wheat wines, barley wines, anything along those lines are one of my favorites.
And they're so hard to find. And when you find them, it's so hard to find one that like just blows your socks off.
Exactly. Yep. I agree. So I want to keep going a little bit, but talking about this weekend, I know that you where you're at, you're not able to fully open yet. You're able to do carryout sales, which you just picked up again last weekend. This weekend you're doing it again. Well, I guess this is not going to post, so I should not say this. This is going to be posted after Memorial Day, but we're talking about Memorial Day weekend, but you're going to be doing it weekends coming up, correct? So on
Right.
Fridays and Saturdays from noon to 5?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the pint club you were talking about, you got a new pint glass. You survived, or I survived the zombie apocalypse.
Yep.
And they come with a matching growler.
Yep. And so, yep, those ones are, man, I was not ready for, again, another COVID surprise. I was not ready for how popular those were going to be. We got a lot of backlash for making those. You have to be on premise to get those. But yeah, starting this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, which so we're gonna have those. So it's a set that says I survived the zombie apocalypse and all I got was this stupid glass, or all I got was this stupid growler. Comes this set, get some beer in the growler. Another one of those, like, we need growlers, and the only thing, amber growlers are gone. Until this whole thing is over, there is not another amber growler in the country.
Oh, really? And so, yeah. Every time a brewery now in the state that I follow that they get a shipment of growlers in, they instantly post, "We've got new growlers. We've got new growlers. Come on in," because you're right. There's very few out there now.
It's crazy, and I was shocked. I mean, I finally found one place in Las Vegas that had them, and she was like pretty blatant, like, "Look, like, we've got them, but you're not gonna like the freight." And she said it to me, I'm like, "Yeah, I don't like the freight. I can't charge people $10 for the glass. There's no way, no way."
I think that's pretty much because of what's going on in the virus, that most breweries weren't taking someone else's growler. They were pretty much being forced to buy the brewery's growler. They couldn't bring in an old something along those lines. But But I found so many breweries, so one opened up just underneath me, but I think they sold out, and they instantly said, "We'll take outside growlers, but we're going to clean the fuck out of them. So the wait might be a little bit longer, but we're going to clean them for you."
Yeah, and honestly, so last weekend was our first weekend open. In 8-9 weeks, I lost count, and we wanted to be good stewards. We want, we're really trying to be, play by the rules, and so last weekend was we're not going to fill customers' growlers, and we have a growler club that has stainless growlers that they get every year from us. So that was kind of a bummer for us to tell our growler club, like, "No go, like, you guys got to buy new growlers." So, but it was still like, we feel like this is the right thing to do. And then we realized there's not enough glass in the world. If we don't find a way to fill people's growlers that are coming in, there's no way we're going to be able to keep going. So this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, we're going to be able to start doing it. We're asking our customers to be extra careful, clean their growlers twice just to be safe. When they come in, we will be sanitizing the growlers. We'll be sanitizing and washing all the taps after each person, because we're only waiting on one person at a time. But man, it's crazy. Things you never thought we were going to have to think about.
So I have a question. This is something that I've been talking about with friends, and I really haven't asked a brewery owner or a brewer. So clear growler to amber growler, I mean, do you prefer, like, as a brewer, to put it in an amber growler? Is it going to stay longer? Is it going to, just like beer bottles, is the color of the glass going to, make the beer last longer? Is it a preference because of the art on it? I mean, or is it just is it a look thing? I mean, I don't know the difference between a clear and an amber growler.
Right. That's actually a really, 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 really great question. Emphasis on the really. No, the reason we don't like clear growlers, just like clear glass. So if you've ever had a Corona, no pun intended, or anything in a green bottle like Heineken, or like anything that light can penetrate. Light is one of the worst enemies of beer.
Okay.
So So if you've ever heard the term light struck, what tends to happen with beer when it's introduced to UV rays or in light is it will go skunky. So Heineken's skunky, right? Corona's skunky. You know, like anything in a clear bottle is skunky. That's because the light has hit the beer and a chemical reaction has happened. And so clear glass to us is a big no-no. That's why the resurgence of cans is so cool, because cans, nothing can hit it, right? No light penetration. So you're going to get a better beer because no light hit it. So the thing that concerns me about clear growlers is that we've done tests for naysayers, and we've thrown out a clear glass on the railing of the brewery, and then kept one that we poured at the same time in the brewery with little to no light penetration, and it's amazing how fast that happens. I mean, we're talking seconds.
Wow.
You know, it's in 10, 15 seconds that beer will smell skunky and taste just a little bit different. So light really is a huge factor in the quality of beer you're drinking. So clear growlers kind of bum me out, but at the same time, walk fast, because beer is better than no beer.
Walk fast and drink fast.
Right. Put that under your shirt.
Yeah. Hey, brown paper bags. There you go. There's a new investment. You can put brown paper bags.
Good call.
All right. I'm good for something every podcast. This has nothing to do with Michigan. I'm sure, and I'm wearing this in honor of the Taproom that closed today. Yeah.
I'm so bummed about that. I fucking love that place.
It's great, and I know you, as big into music as you are, I mean, it's a great place to go drink beer, eat great food, great beer, and listen to pretty good metal music.
On vinyl.
Yes, exactly.
They only play vinyl.
It was pretty sad today when they announced that they were closing their tap room.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed about that.
Yeah, luckily they're still in distro, and you'll be able to drive down to Indiana or have someone mule it back for you. But that was always like maybe 2 times a year I'd like to head down to Munster, Indiana, and pop into Three Floyds.
Yep. I mean, everything about that experience, dude, is like. So I went down to we were flying out of Chicago to go on a big California beer tour in October, and my brother-in-law couldn't get to Chicago quite as fast as I could, so I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna make the slow road and stop by Three Floyds and eat some dinner, drink some beer, and I was sitting right at the bar, watched them change the records, listening to Black Label Society, just like taking it all in. Freaking love that place, man.
Yeah, it's great. I'm gonna give this a second podcast in a row, but my buddy Tim from Minnesota, who lives here now, he always drives back and forth to Minnesota, and he's the one that got me started with their IPAs, obviously Zombie Dust and Panzer Wolf, Blot Out the Sun. I've got hold on, I've got 1 bottle left. Whew, that wasn't a bottle of beer.
You did. Job opening.
So I've got a barrel-aged behemoth. That's the last bottle of Three Floyds I have left.
Oh, I'm happy that's not the bottle that just broke.
No, it wasn't actually a bottle. That was a bunch of nails that just flopped. So I got lucky there. But
oh, good. It sounded a lot worse than it did.
Well, that was my stove that it hit. So I apologize for the loud noise. Yeah, that was some sad news today. I mean, they're not a Michigan brewery, but they're close enough, and I know a lot of Michigan beer fans head there, and there's a lot of muling and a lot of trading going on with Three Floyds. So this whole pandemic, whether that made them close or not, it's sad. I know there's 2 so far in Michigan that said they have closed because of the pandemic, which is good too, but it's still sad to see even those 2 close.
Right. So I knew of the one in Charles City. No,
Cedar.
Yeah,
it's in Cedar, so just kind of northwest of. Yeah, it's called Big Cat.
Yep, that was Big Cat. Yeah, I've been there. Yep.
And then they're staying open, but they're stopped brewing in Kalamazoo. Olde Peninsula is stopping their whole brewing production.
Just done.
Yeah, so they're going to stay open
Okay.
as a restaurant. They posted, but no more brewing. And the brewer, whoever it was, and I actually I made a video a couple months ago that I was blown away. I was, I go into these small places that don't have a really well name, but have been around for 15 plus years. And his beers blew me away. And the brewer's been there for over 15 years, and now they're not brewing anymore.
Oh, that sucks.
So I'm happy when I hear that. That's why I like to touch base with, again, smallish brewery in Michigan, that you're coming up with innovative ways to keep things churning while the pandemic is going on.
Right.
So,
I mean, like you said, I mean, only 2 is pretty, that's pretty encouraging to me. Because this is a huge. Right. This is a huge weight and a huge burden for these businesses to carry, and we're so lucky, we're so small and we designed this business to withstand something like this. Never expected something like this, but something recession proof, something, because when we owned the art gallery, we went through the 2008 recession with art, right? So when we're opening the brewery, people are like, oh, this is it's a lot harder than you think. I'm like, yeah, you haven't sold art for a living, so I think we'll be okay with beer. But never saw something like this coming, right? And so to hear only 2 and terrible, horrible news that we have 2, but still, man, that number, at the beginning of this, I thought that was going to be a lot higher. So that is encouraging.
Well, I'm happy that you're surviving and, like I said, churning along until we're able to stop back in and have those 2 pints with you. One thing I like to do, obviously, because of the traveling I do, is let people know, along with Starving Artists in Ludington Bay, or in Ludington, you can put a brew tour together that includes Starving Artists, Ludington Bay, Jamesport. So there's 3 within about a 6 or 7 mile radius. But then if you go north of Manistee, you have North Channel. And I think the furthest south from you would be Big Heart in Hart, Michigan. Yeah, so I mean, there's quite a few breweries around you that people can and then you can go a little bit further east to Reed City to Reed Brewing Company. So there's that little side of the state, or the west side of the state, that little pocket. You can put a lot of breweries together and do a nice day trip or a two-day trip brewery tour.
Hell yeah! And honestly, what's really cool, when we opened, we were the only microbrewery. So Jamesport is a pub.
Yeah.
We were the only microbrewery from Whitehall to Frankfurt. So we had kind of this own little pocket of our, it was so cool to see is that, like you said, now we're a beer destination. And it's not just, now you've got Beulah, it's awesome. All these cool little breweries opening up. Ludington Bay is our brother, sister brewery. Fucking love those guys. And we always, like, those guys are church to us, man. I love those guys.
They make some killer beers.
And just quality people, just everything about that business, is amazing. But what's cool is that, then you've got the beer bars, on top, so you got the M.B.R, which has been in Draft Magazine for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. It's like top 100 beer bars in the state.
Is that in Ludington?
So that's in Ludington. Yep, okay. Downtown Ludington.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So it's so cool to watch from when we open. In June it's going to be 5 years for us to see us being kind of like, along with Jamesport, just being like these little specks in this large area. Now see all that area fill in is so cool. So now we are a destination, and now we are, so you can go along the lakeshore now and hit all the way up. You can start in Muskegon and go all the way. It's so cool.
It's great. I mean, the whole west coast of Michigan. I mean, like you said, you can start up in Frankfurt, technically Beulah, even go a little bit higher than that. But in Beulah, there's the new 1-5 Shores, and then St. Ambrose is right there. Frankfurt has storm cloud, and then you start going south, and just it's like a little dot on the map on which ones you can hit, and
it's badass.
It is great. Yeah, it's a great community. And then you find places like you, and you just pull up in your backyard, and I'm representing your shirt today. You're born.
I saw that, man. My kids designed that shirt. I love it. Thank you.
That's great, man. So before we leave, I want to let people know that, again, Ludington, Michigan, Starving Artist Brewing Company. You can stop in on Fridays and Saturdays from now from noon to 5 to get out carryouts. But once things start picking up and we're able to reopen, how many days a week are you going to be open? Normally?
So our normal hours, once we get back to no mask land, our normal hours are for summer are going to be Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, noon to 7. We're pretty elusive. So you gotta get there that time. If you're desperate, reach out on Facebook or email me, and then I'll see what I can do. I might be able to talk to somebody who knows somebody.
And people can find you. You do a lot of posting on Facebook and Instagram.
Yep. I try to do that as much as I can. Absolutely.
No, your videos for the past 8 weeks have been great. Like I said, it's roughly about at least once, if not twice a week. So just kind of connecting with people, drinking beers, following their comments, and just kind of having an open conversation about.
Sometimes just talking about jack shit and nothing about nothing.
That's what this is. Jack shit. All right, buddy.
That's amazing.
Well, I want to say thanks. I do really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and joining me for this and letting people know what's going on at Starving Artist. And I will see you soon. I have my 4-pack to pick up. And in November, we're going to be partying once those barrels.
Pray for good weather in November so we can have an outdoor party. Everybody can just get bundled up. Who gives a shit?
I don't care. Good weather, bad weather. I'm drinking that beer.
Dude, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, man.
Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too, man. Thanks so much.
Andy. Bye-bye.